Okay, so I went to Edit, Preferences, and I switched my external script editor to Visual Studio 19 by navigating to the folder that it was in. Um, but it's a good thing I cut away because at the same exact time, my brand new computer suddenly, all of my screens turned pink and started getting darker and dimmer, and I was like, what is happening? Apparently, Windows 10 has a built-in night light feature that makes your computer more irritating to look at past sundown, which is not something anyone wants. But anyway, it's to help you go to sleep because you're not looking at bright blue light. Yeah, but I'm looking at my computer. I'm not trying to go to sleep. When I go to sleep, I go to my... Anyway, so I did that. And then I want to go to the Object Pooler and make sure that my changes were saved here. So let me go to the Object Pooler script. And occasionally you get that line endings warning. You can ignore it. And just click save again. It's fine. And you see that I do have my constructor here. It also says 0 references. It tells me that I don't have any references to this constructor yet in my project. Whereas down here, like my Object Pooler, it's got 3 references. This notification is from the. I think I'm using a newer version of Visual Studio. I think Visual Studio 2017 is what we had installed before, and now it's 2019. Or the one I have installed is now 2019. So anyway, you don't need to update your, or shouldn't need to update your Visual Studio because I've put a plugin to let me keep using the same .NET build that we have been using. So if you're using the most recent game backup file and your Visual Studio complains, please let me know because it shouldn't be violating any of that. Also, if you look up here in the left-hand corner, before it said miscellaneous, now it says Assembly C#. Assembly C# is just the default name for the project that's created in your solution. You can change this to be whatever you want it to be, just by clicking rename. I'm going to leave it Assembly C# because in my brain that says to me everything's fine. So we updated Object Pooler. Getting back to what we're doing. And now we need to update the weapon definition. We updated this a minute ago to write public game object my weapon model, and now we're going to add public string my weapon tag. So why are we adding a model and a tag? Because models have tags. The reason we're doing that is because remember that our object pooler, our object pooler is driven by tags on objects. But it won't know what tag to look for unless I do some sort of weird recursive thing where I say, go to look for the tag for this object and then get that object. So I'm gonna specify my weapon tag out separately. You'll see how that works in just a second. Okay. And this was the part that took us the longest to figure out. In order for this to work, we can't just drag the weapons that are included in our model set into our scriptable objects. We have to actually create prefabs for all of them. So if I go to my weapons right now, you can see my pistol now. It's looking for a game object, and what we first tried to do was take the weapons here and grab, say, the shotgun, or the pistol. Let's grab the pistol since it's what we're working with, and drag it into here. And that looks like it works. The problem is that this game object is the actual model. So it's got model information, rig information, animation information, and material information. What it doesn't have is a transform or a tag because it's not really an object in the game yet. It's available to the game. It just doesn't have the game object stuff. So what we've got to do is we have to create prefabs for each of our weapons. So I'm going to drag each of the 4 weapons that we want to use, the pistol, the shotgun, the submachine gun, and the assault rifle, into the game. So weapon pistol USP, and this is in Toon Soldiers Armies, models, weapons. So drag into the game the pistol, the shotgun, the assault rifle M16, and the submachine gun MP7. You'll see why we're using the MP7 rather than the MP5 or the P90 in a little bit. Although I'm a big fan of the P90. Okay, zoom in on these. Okay, so these are the weapons that we're going to have our player use. I'm turning the lighting effects off in the scene view so we can see them a little more clearly. And again, they're all set up so that you can put them directly in the weapon container and they'll automatically be in the right place. Okay. So I'm going to take each of these weapons and I want to make them into prefabs. How do I do that? I drag them into the prefabs folder, and that's literally it. So I'm going to go to, okay. So I'm going to go to my prefabs folder, and I'm going to take the pistol and drag it in, original prefab. Shotgun, drag it in, original prefab. Submachine gun, drag it in, original prefab. And assault rifle, and drag it in, original prefab. Once that's done, I can get rid of these because all we were doing was giving an instance in the game and then creating the prefab from that instance. So now we have prefabs, which we can add to our scriptable objects. So let's go to my scriptable objects, my weapons, pistol, and I want to get the one called, this is opening up a thing in a different window, blah, blah, blah. I'm taking this handle, and this is not a very useful interface when it's maximized like this. So I'm going to drag this over to the left, and I'm going to look for a thing called weapon, because that's what my weapons are actually named. And I'm going to grab the weapon USP pistol, but I don't want the one that's got the white cube the white square next to it, because it's the actual model that was imported. It's the FBX file. What I want is the prefab. Ooh, weapon pistol underscore USP dot prefab. So I'm going to grab that one. And then for my shotgun, I'm going to do the same thing. Weapon, shotgun, and it's the one that's just a simple blue cube, not the one with the blue cube with the white, what is that, piece of paper or square or something next to it. Grab that. Grab submachine gun. And I want the MP7. Again, I want the one that's just the blue cube. Or down here it says .prefab. Press enter. And then I'm going to go to assault rifle. Cool. So now I've added all of my prefabs. But I need to do some things with some tags so that my scripts can find stuff. So we need to create 5 tags that we don't already have, and that is pretty easy. I can pick any game object in the world, health box, let's say, and I'm going to go to tag, add tag. This will not add the tag to this object. It will just let you start adding tags to your tag list. And we need to create 5 tags. So one, this is going to be weapon container, bink, pistol, bink, pistol didn't take, pistol, save, add, shotgun, save, add, submachine gun. Notice that I'm capitalizing gun here in submachine gun, even though I didn't in shotgun because reasons. And then assault rifle. Okay, so now we've added all these tags. Well, what are we going to do with these tags? Again, remember that our object pooler system is driven by our tag system. So we need to add these tags to our prefabs, which is trivially simple. So let's go to, well, first let's go to our player, because the first one we need to add is our weapon container to his weapon container. Spine, right clavicle, right upper arm, right up forearm, right hand, weapon container, tag, weapon container. Cool. Now let's go to my prefabs. My prefabs. Okay. And I'm going to go to the pistol, and I want to give it the tag of pistol. assault rifle, give it the tag of assault rifle. The shotgun, give the tag of shotgun. And the submachine gun, give the tag of submachine gun. Okay, so now we've got all of our tagged items set up correctly. So when we use the constructor, we'll be able to create these items. And when we want to instantiate them, we'll be able to, or enable them or disable them, we'll be able to find them by using the tags. So now we're going to get to the actual code part of this. That's everything we need to do with the models themselves because they're already set up. So if I go to my scriptable objects, my weapons, and go to my pistol, if I click on the weapon pistol USP, it's going to go to the prefab. If I click on the prefab, you'll see that it's tagged pistol correctly. So that everything is set. You don't have to save anything or do anything there. So let's go to the weapon handler code. We go to my simple player. I can double click on weapon handler. I already have it open as it happens, but okay. So at the very beginning of our weapon handler script, we cycle through all of the weapons in order to set the weapon key sequentially, so that if we later remove the shotgun and replace it with a bazooka or whatever, we don't have to go back and recode everything to skip over the shotgun and make the weapon rocket launcher number 2 now, and we don't have to. All this is handled by this one line of code, setting the weapon keys in order, in the same order that they are in here. So the weapon key for pistol is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. And we don't have to think about it or do anything with it ever again. Since we're going to cycle through our entire weapon list anyway, let's go ahead and add these objects to the weapon pool. So I'm going to say object pool item, my new weapon item is equal to new object pool item my weapon list I. Remember that my weapon list is a list of objects, and I is this integer that's counting up through which weapon we're on. So the 0th, if I is equal to 0, then I'm on the first item. If I is equal to 1, I'm on the second item because it's a 0 based numbering counting system. If I is equal to 2, then I'm on the third item, and if I is equal to 3, I'm on the fourth item, which is anyway. And then for that item in that list, and that list, remember, is a list of weapon definitions, so I can access my weapon model now. And it says down here the 3 things you need to create an object pool item. And remember, that's what we set up over in the object pooler right here. We set the object to pool, then an integer, and then a boolean of whether or not it should expand. So go back here. Okay, so we want to make exactly one of these, and false, because we don't need to have in the player's hand more than one of any of these weapons at any given time. And then we're going to go to my object pooler dot items to we need to create, before we do that, we need to actually access the object pooler, which means we need to make a public reference to it. So we're going to go to public object pooler, my object pooler, and we're going to set that equal to object pooler is equal to game object dot find object with tag with object with tag object pooler. And I just remembered, find game object with tag. There's one more tag that we need. So an object pooler is a component, not a game object. So I don't want to find the game object. I want to find the component on that game object. So I'm going to find the game object that contains the object pooler, that has a tag called object pooler, and I'm going to get its component object pooler. I know that doesn't make a lick of sense, so let's go through it one more time. I can show you better in the inspector. Save that. That is all correct. So my object pooler equals game object dot find game object with tag object pooler dot get component angle braces object pooler angle braces parentheses semicolon. My object pooler, which is an object pooler component, should be the one that's attached to the game object that has a tag called object pooler. I've said object pooler so many times at this point that it's stopped making any kind of sense. Okay, so let me show you what this is. This thing in the world, it's compiling, sorry. This thing right here that's highlighted that says object pooler is a game object. This thing right here that says object pooler is the component, which is a script, a C# script called object pooler. And what I'm just realizing is there's a tag that we don't have. So I'm going to go to object pooler tag, add tag, plus object pooler. And then I'm going to come back to the object pooler game object and tag that game object with the object pooler tag. And now, when it goes through the entire scene, it will look for any object that has the tag object pooler. And this is the only one that does. When it does that, then it's going to get the component object pooler, which is a script that's attached to the game object. Find the game object with the tag object pooler, and then get the component of the object pooler that's on that game object and set that to my object pooler so that I can use it and refer to it later. And we're going to refer to it right now. We're going to say my object pooler dot items to pool dot add my new weapon item. So this is going to add to our list in our object pooler whatever our weapon item is. Let me demonstrate what this is doing by running the game not with maximize on play and with the object pooler highlighted. Let me let it catch up. Okay, press play. Okay, sorry. Let me stop again. Our objects to pool here for blood, it can expand as it needs to. So I'm going to change this from 20 to 1. Wall impact can also expand, so I'm going to set it from 20 to 1. And same thing with Bite Holder. There's no reason to spawn 20 or 30 copies of it initially if we have logic in place to allow the list to expand as is needed. So it also is going to make this list easier to read, and you can see what we're doing here. So I'm going to press play. And look at that. It goes through our weapons list, and it adds... Oh, right. Sorry. Hang on. I gotta deal with this guy. Okay. And it adds our pistol, a shotgun clone, a submachine gun clone, and an assault rifle clone. They are all invisible in the game because they're all deactivated, just like all of our other object pooled items are. So the game's not wasting any resources keeping track of this. It's not checking it or updating it or doing anything. It creates it and then deactivates it, and that's it. So we're not losing anything by having this set out there. But the advantage of this approach is that we're going to be able to create as many weapons as we want, add the model to the weapon definition, and not have to worry about placing it or dealing with it in code or anything else. It's just a really elegant system. Okay, so come back in here and... Okay, there's something that we have to talk about here that's a technical point, which is that there's a thing called a race condition where two separate scripts are trying to do things at the same time, and if one of them gets out ahead in front first, it will win. Well, in this case, we definitely want the items to be created in the object pool list before we try to assign a weapon to the player, which means that this check, which was happening in the start function, is going to have to move. What I want it to do is I want it to happen in the update function instead. So I'm just going to take the entire block here that says if my current weapon definition is equal to null, take that whole block, cut it, and then in the update function, I'm going to have it be the very first thing. So what this says is go ahead and add the object to the object pooler, and then on update, which happens after start, then check to see if the character has no weapon defined. Remember that we included this so that if we want to start if we don't want the player to have to if we're playtesting a new fancy weapon, we don't want the player to have to start with the pistol and then cycle through to get to the assault rifle. We want to be able to, in the inspector, actually assign the assault rifle. In this particular case, in most cases though, we're going to want it to start with the pistol, which is in my weapon list is item 0. So we've got the weapon definition key, and we've set the current weapon definition to this. But we also now want to go fetch the item from the object pooler, and this is the same syntax we've followed every time we've gotten anything from the object pooler. We need to create a public game object called my current weapon model. This keeps track of what weapon I'm currently holding, and having it in the weapon handler makes sense. And we're going to set my current weapon model equal to object pooler dot shared instance dot get pooled object my current weapon definition dot my weapon tag. You kind of think that what I'd want to get would be my weapon model, but remember that our object pooler runs on tags. That's how this works. So let's save that. Let's save it and see what happens here when we do this. We're going to press play, and again, I'm not going to. In fact, let me disable the zombie right now because he's bugging me, and I want to see the weapon happen. Press play. Okay, so my weapon pistol is here, but it's not active. It set my current weapon definition to be equal to that, and I can show you that by going into Simple Player. You can see here that my current weapon model is equal to none. That's not ideal. Let's stop this. My current weapon model equals object pooler shared instance. I could pull the object. Okay. Let's keep going and see what happens here, because I'm not sure why that's not picking that up. My current weapon definition. My weapon tag. Let's spit out my weapon tag to make sure it's pistol. Log my weapon tag is equal to plus my current weapon definition dot my weapon tag. Yeah. Okay. Click save. Here, click play. Okay, for some reason it's not setting it to anything. Press play. So it's setting my weapon definition. You can see it's setting my weapon definition here to the pistol. But it's not setting it equal to... Oh, because I'm an idiot is why. We forgot to set the other part. There's two parts you have to set. You have to set the weapon model. You also have to actually set the tag. Right, so it's going and getting it, and then it's saying, hey, you don't have a weapon tag. Okay, now I'll press play and go back to my player, and now you can see that I have the weapon, the pistol. So let's look at the pistol. it is here, and my player is far away. And so the player's not actually holding the pistol yet. The reason is because we have to actually move the pistol to where the weapon container is. And we also want to parent the pistol to the weapon container so that it will continue to follow the player around for all the other, until we switch the weapons again. So, go back to my code. Sorry about that. We're going to go to, make a comment here, position the weapon in the player's hand, and parent the weapon model to the weapon container. Game object. And that's just a comment to indicate what we're doing here. So we're going to say my current weapon model dot transform dot position is equal to my weapon container. Oh, I don't have my weapon container. So let's create a weapon container, game object. And remember that we set the tag for the weapon container at the beginning in the inspector, so we can say my weapon container is equal to game object dot find game object with tag object singular. There is a plural one. We just want to find singular, and this weapon container, and that will find the weapon container that's down attached to our right hand of our model. Then we're going to set the transform position of the current weapon model to my weapon container dot transform dot position, and we're going to set my current weapon model dot transform dot rotation equal to my weapon container dot transform dot rotation. Again, remember that the offset of my pistol originally was 0, 0, 0 for the position and 0, 0, 0 for rotation. So I can just take whatever rotation I have for my existing weapon container, and that will be fine. Now I need to make the pistol parented to that object so that it will continue to follow it around for the rest of the game until I switch weapons. I'm going to say my current weapon model dot transform dot set parent, and the parent has to be a transform too, so it's going to be my weapon container dot transform. It has to be the transform component of some other game object. And then finally we're going to say my current weapon model dot set active true. That will move, so this is going to move the weapon model that we just created, the pistol, to wherever my weapon container is, and set it equal to, and set the parent to the weapon container, and set it active. So if I press play, et voila! Now the pistol is actually in my hand. If you recall, I said that earlier that the pistol scale was a little weird because it was 1.25. Remember this was 1.25? So I wanted to check and see if the weapon that I'm spawning is the same thing, and it is. So there must be something baked into the model that makes it scale up correctly. In fact, if I turn on the pistol we had before and turn off the pistol I have now, you can see that they're exactly the same. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this, and now we want to go down to address some logic in our previous and next weapon model logic. So in previous weapon model, we have to do two things. First, we've got to deactivate the previous model, which we were not doing before. Before we were just changing weapon definition keys. So before we do this, before we equip the previous weapon, let's go to my current weapon model dot transform dot set parent to null. In other words, tell the current model that I'm done with it, and my current weapon model dot set active false. What will happen here is that we'll effectively drop the weapon in space wherever our hand happens to be at the time, but we'll deactivate it and we don't care. If we need it later, we'll reactivate it and pull it back to wherever the player is standing. So we want to do that before we switch weapons. After we're done switching weapons, we want to basically copy and paste all that stuff about the weapon tag. So this logic handles what my current weapon definition is. Both of them reset my current weapon definition. And here we set my current weapon definition key to be equal to my weapon key. So let's, instead of having to rewrite this stuff, let's just do this. Because again, this is all working on my current weapon definition. Copy this. And we're going to go down here to equip previous weapon. And we're going to go down to after we've set my weapon key. And set that. And in the equip next weapon, we're going to go to after we set my weapon key, because we know for sure my weapon definition is set, and set all that stuff. And then we're going to grab the thing to disable the previous weapon, put it there. Okay, so I think that's everything. So it's a bunch of copying and pasting. I'll leave it up for a second in case you need to copy it down, but it's really just copying and pasting because the logic is the same. When you change weapons, you want to activate deactivate the previous weapon and unparent it so that the game's not trying to keep up with it, and then relocate and set the parent of my new weapon and then activate it. So that should be everything we need to do to make this work. I'm going to click save. Is there anything else I need to do? I don't think there is. Press play. And remember that we had set up previous and next weapon to be our Q and E keys. So I'm going to cycle through the weapons so you can see them changing after it compiles. Okay, here we go. So if I press E, I should go from my pistol to the second weapon in my list, which is my shotgun. And nothing is happening. Why do you think that's true? Okay. Get button, next weapon. So let's go to Edit, Project Settings, Input. I have next weapon. It is my E key. Oh. Because I'm an idiot again. No, it should still spawn it, even though I don't have any bullets. Right? Okay, so I left out a piece here. So in our logic up here, remember that we said go and set my current weapon model by using my current weapon definition. I forgot to include that down below. So after we set my current weapon model, we need to go and after we set the current weapon definition key, rather, we need to go and get the current weapon model. And we do the same thing here. Okay, we don't need all these lines in between stuff. I'm just trying to highlight where I changed something. Okay, so we need to actually go and get the objects. I'm pretty dumb. Okay, so let's go here and press play, and hopefully that should work. Ooh, look at that. So what's cool about the system, I think, is that I can dynamically change what weapon the player is, what weapons the player can hold, and they automatically go to where his hand is. Now the grip for the machine gun looks a little awkward, and the shotgun's also a little weird because he's using the animation for holding a pistol. So next time in session 14, we're going to address that by giving him some different animations so that he can hold the weapons in what looks like a little more realistic fashion. We're also going to change some of our view distances because the guns don't read real well from the top. Let me pause this and maximize on play, and let's cycle through them in the game so we can see what they are. From the shadow, you can tell what they are, right? you can see that there's a difference in the items, but the actual weapons themselves don't read a whole lot differently. One way we can fix that that I'm going to go ahead and do is go to my VMCam and change the my framing transposer's height from 20 down to 10. And I'll press play. And now when I change my weapons, it's a lot more clear that I'm holding a different object rather than something that's just a little bit longer. I can see the weapons a little better. The problem is that I won't see the zombies until they're closer to me. We're going to play with the height of the camera as we go through the game, but for right now, this will work pretty well. Okay, so that's what we did, and now we've got a really good system in place that will allow us to add basically an infinite number of weapons without having to do much other than fill out a weapon definition. So we just come here and do create weapon definition, fill it out, attach the model, a prefab of the model, and give it the right tag, and then we can pretty much do an infinite number of weapons, which is pretty great because as you see here, we actually have quite a few to play with in the models. Zombies, that's why I can't find it. Toon soldiers, models, weapons. We have quite a bit more than just the a pistol, a shotgun, an assault rifle, and a submachine gun. We've got a couple of different flavors of submachine gun, a couple different kind of shotguns. We've got a sniper rifle, an actual light machine gun, a couple of those, and a knife if we want to get around to having hand-to-hand combat, and even a Molotov cocktail if we want to have incendiary grenades. So that's what we did, and I like this format because it allowed me to spend my time earlier in the week thinking through, coming up with an idea of how I wanted to implement something, and then I got to work collaboratively and sort of see how we did it. What I did not do a very good job of, though, was keeping really good notes. So I realized I've skipped some steps here that I've had to go back to. But this should now be complete, and we'll pick up there next week. So, as always, I thank you for your time and attention, and I appreciate everybody participating in this. And go team, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye.